The Godfather saga closes out with a film that has divided audiences since its release. Is The Godfather Part III a worthy entry in this series? Stay with us to find out.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Eric, we are closing out a trilogy. We are, if anybody is listening to this episode, when it comes out, the day it comes out, you have already known that our Godfather 2 episode just came out a couple of days earlier. We're tying these two together. Mm-hmm. We're linking them.
Yep.
Forever to be linked together in the 3324 podcast canon.
Well, okay.
Right? We just did Godfather 2, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to wait a year. I don't want to wait a year to do this. I felt like I wanted to really watch the third one after, and it's like I said in the intro.
Well, you should have. Yeah. It's good that you did.
Or divisive.
Yes. No, it's. I see. I see the
hate.
No, not the hate, but I see that this is something worth talking about. So
I think it is. Yeah. I think it is. So we've gathered everybody. They were here for the Godfather episode. They were here for the Godfather Part 2 episode. So we're able to bring our family back together because none of them got killed or shot or assassinated. Our family is intact. So we're going to start. Let's start with Don Corleone. I think I got it right. Don Corleone.
I'll take it.
Sean Grady.
Corleone.
Thank you.
Oh, there you
Don
go.
Corleone.
Yeah.
A little bit of finesse. Yeah. That's
which I have none.
That's not true.
Sean Grady, welcome aboard for this closeout of the Godfather saga. And our next guest is, because that's what it says on her screen. It just says Cy in parentheses. Christy Cuomo is back with us. Welcome, Christy. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you. And of course,
I feel like this is the episode I was thrown in the trunk, tied up, and forced to be here. But
okay, well, we shall see. We shall see. And rounding out the cast of luminaries is Mr. Nick Corleone.
Corleone.
I thought you were Corleone.
I should have started out as Nick Mancini and then become Nick Corleone.
See our arc.
Yes, Nick Leshy goes deep into. He loves to really go method on these episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can't see it, but on our recording platform, everybody puts their name in, and they can put in whatever they want. I have no control. So Nick always tries to tie in his screen name with what's going on. And he has been Nick Corleone for the past for this saga.
We should have tied together Part 1 and Part 2. That would have been the more natural tie-in, and then waited for Part 3.
No, because everybody does that. Everybody does that. We don't do what everybody else does.
That's true.
That's for sure.
We tie 2 and 3 together because we want it that way. Because that's how we do it here. Anybody could do 1 and 2 together. It's been done. They could get one story. Great. We're putting 2 and 3 together. We're giving you everything at once. There is a lot to dissect and pull apart. But before that, if you want to help support the show, you can visit us at buymeacoffee.com/3324. Become a Green Room supporter. It helps keep the content flowing, keeps the faucet open, keeps the lights on. And we'll just leave it there. Buymeacoffee.com/3324. Also want to say that Nick Leshy is the creator of the City of Kick blog. So we're going to put a link to that in the show notes. And of course, Don Corleone is one of the innkeepers at Drama from the Past. And we're going to put a link to his Facebook page there as well. So if you guys would visit that, that would be fantastic. We're going to get into the stats. I want to have a little bit of structure in this conversation, not much, But there are some things I just want to get out of the way when we start the conversation, just so we don't have to belabor them, because there is a lot. I think there's a lot to cover, but I don't want us to get hung up on certain things that I know we're going to get hung up on. So I want to just kind of clear the deck of them early, and then we can kind of go over some of the other things. Statistic-wise, this was released in December of 1990. Written by Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. There was a $54 million budget. Made $136 million back in box office. Not horrible. 7 Oscar nominations. 0 wins. The first Godfather film that Al Pacino was not nominated for as well. He was nominated in the past 2. This would be the first film he did not get a nomination for. Let me go through some of this cast briefly. I don't know if it'll be brief, but there's a lot of. The one good thing about this, can we agree that Coppola is really good at casting?
Well,
not for this movie.
well,
yes and no. Yeah, yeah.
Well, we'll get to that, but I think so much has been made. I'm going to put this out there so you can think about it. I think that's been overblown. Yeah, she's a novice actress, and the way everybody talks about her, I thought she was in like all these scenes. She's not really in it that much. Enough that thing. So anyway,
are we talking about that? Because
no, we're going to get to the cast. We're going to get to the cast. We'll do the cast and then we'll get to it. Of course, Al Pacino returns as Michael Corleone. Diane Keaton returns as Kay. Talia Shire as Connie. Andy Garcia, new to the proceedings, as Vincent Corleone or Vincent Mancini. Eli Wallach, Hollywood royalty, as Don Altobello. Joe Mantegna, another great actor. Again, Joey Zaza. I don't know who owed a favor to George Hamilton, but somehow George Hamilton got out here as B.J. Harrison. That's because Robert Duvall declined to participate, so they kind of rewrote the thing as him as the lawyer. Underused, Bridget Fonda, in it for like 5 minutes, and then she's gone. Sofia Coppola as Mary Corleone. Ralph Vallone as Cardinal Lamberto. He's kind of a big Italian actor. Richard Bright returns. Sean will be very happy to know, as Al Neary. Michael's literal right-hand man, and he does all the wet work, right, for him. Helmut Berger as Frederick Keinzig. Don Novello.
Yeah.
Eric. Don Novello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm watching the film, I'm like, is that Father Guido Sarducci without the mustache? And why is he in so many scenes?
Yes, indeed.
Like, when did he go legit, Don Novello? It's so nice to see. I'm like, it's him. The way he talks, the way he talks, it's Don Novello. John Savage.
Yes.
As Father Andrew Hagen, right? Tom Hagen's son. Even though Tom Duvall's not in the film, the son is. Who else could we go to? That's pretty much that rounds out like the main ones. I think that's pretty much.
Did you say Talia Shire? Because she had a.
I did. I said her.
Okay, you said that.
I said her third as Connie Corleone. So, there's a couple of things. Let me do a little brief history too. Paramount or a studio has wanted. They wanted a third one right away relatively right away after the second one. There was rumblings. As early as 1978, there was a completed screenplay, and it's like, let's get this off the ground. John Travolta was talked about, a couple of young Hollywood actors at the time. Without Coppola, though, Coppola wasn't really interested. He was never interested, Eric, in revisiting. Right? He always felt that the story was told with parts 1 and part 2.
That's right. Paramount, I guess, talked him into it, and I think he was. As he always is, in financial trouble. So that's probably the reason why he decided to do it.
That was why.
Yeah. So
he's always, you know what?
Yeah. Right. He's broke right now.
I think Sean, I think we got to give the guy credit. Like Coppola puts everything on the line for his films. Like he is not afraid, and he does put his own money in for these films, whether they're like, we could talk about Megalopolis, which he basically did the same thing and he's broke again. Apocalypse Now, the same thing. I think you have to give him credit for that, though, right, Sean? Like,
he goes all in, puts his money where his mouth is, invests in himself, maybe to his detriment, I guess. That if he ends up belly up over it, but he wanted it. I mean, what I read is there were several scripts, like you said, floating around, and they just went back pretty much to the drawing board and did it their way, and. Be interesting. I've heard some of the plots of the old ones. Anthony Corleone was like working for the government, like orchestrating some kind of assassination of a leader for the Corleone family, helping the government and things like that. I don't know if I would have enjoyed that. I'd rather him put his fingerprints on the final product. I think that was the right move if he was going to do it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What if you could go back in time and rewatch your favorite movies with fresh eyes?
Well, that's exactly what we do on The Regular Guy Movie Show. I'm Brian.
I'm Seth. And I'm Justin.
Each episode, we dig into a different movie. We break down what holds up, what doesn't, and why we loved it in the first place.
It's like hanging out with your buddies and debating movies with less burping and farting.
So if you're a fan of nostalgia with a side of sarcasm, come hang with us.
The Regular Guy Movie Show, talking flicks. Here we go!
The Regular Guy Movie Show. Press play on your childhood favorites.
Yeah, a whole bunch of different directors were tossed around, Nick, right? There was a lot of different things. There was an Irish, Italian versus Irish gangs.
I have mixed feelings about it. I think I would have loved to have seen it closer to part 2, because I would have liked to have seen that arc with, Al Pacino's character, just because when this movie starts, it's like he's already kind of made that change, like that he wants to go legit. And I think there's that gap. I think we really need to see all the, what made him do that and how he changed so much. And we'll never see that, At the same time, it's good that Francis Ford Coppola directed it. He stepped away. I heard mixed things. Like, I think he gave his blessing at one point. He's like, go ahead, do it. I'm not directing it. He wanted to do his own thing, but it would have been nice to see him do it, back then. And because you could just see it's different. It's, even his directorial style is much different after these years have passed. So I would have liked to have seen that story. Like Sean says, I don't know if I would have liked it. This is a completely different story that they came up with, but it would have been interesting. And some of those casting choices, you mentioned John Travolta, and I think that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But who knows? We'll never see it.
Yeah,
alternate universe.
Sean, you mentioned, or Nick did that. Yeah, he only made this film because of financial problems. So this was kind of a for hire thing. Now, Eric, you were kind of shaking. Were you shaking your head no a little bit when?
Yeah.
Nick said that he wished it had come right on top of it, right? That the third one had come right on top.
Well, it's just a very, very general statement, but I don't know if I'm ready to make it yet. I think it's probably my closing statement about it. But I guess if you want it now, the film should have never been made. I feel like
you're shaking your head totally as a no. Okay.
The powerful, ending that was Godfather 2 for me, with Michael crossing that line and him sort of stepping into a place where he would never be able to come back from. I felt like this film was just that. It was just showing us. It's like a big exclamation point. It's like we didn't really need to see it. In my opinion. I think it's just, something that, you have to think about as you walk away. That's what made those two films so powerful. Sure. And the impression that it gave you at the end, seeing him suffer as he does in this film, trying to go legit. It's a poor bastard. It's like, does he deserve it? Obviously not, he got, so. But there it is. That's just my opinion. But I just feel like it's just something that, it's a place where he can never come back from. And that was the message of for me, how the second one ended. But him sitting by himself, knowing what he did, he destroyed that family, and that's really all you need to know. I feel. But that's just my opinion. But
I thought you were going to side with me where I liked the idea of a long time elapsing and things happen. If they'd made a third one right away, you would have gotten more of the same character.
Yeah.
This taking place so many years after allows some change to happen if it's going to happen, or we get to see the effects, or we get to see what an older Michael who is haunted by because what we're seeing now is we're in Godfather 3, we're seeing a man who's haunted by those things, who realized in age he got the wisdom that his father was trying to give him. That's the way I look at Godfather 3 is he finally gained the wisdom and realized all the shitty things he did. And he even says it is like, I did these things to protect my family. There was a lot of those great conversations with Kay where they finally got to some of the meat and potatoes of that. And I liked that, that this is a man who finally in old age is not so stubborn that he's making excuses for those things. He realizes the torment, and he realizes the harm he inflicted. And in a very Shakespearean way, these things are going to come back to him. And he realizes that there's a line in the film, basically like, the higher up I went, I thought I'd be getting away from this, but it's just as bad. People are it's just as criminal, like that you couldn't, as much as you aspired to get away from it, you're not going to ever get away from it.
But was it somebody's responsibility to actually show this to the audience? Did the audience want it? Were they, hungry for another chapter? That's something I don't know. But it's just, I just feel like, ultimately it really doesn't pan out. It's a Greek tragedy, for the most part, I guess, but it's just, it's very dramatic, very, dare I say, very depressing, it kind of, it takes you, it's pretty heavy. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's, all these movies have a veil of sadness and darkness in them, right, Sean? It's kind of that's the world that these people live in. They do not live in there are very few moments of happiness, and even in this one, it's the same thing. Michael has the ability to slow down, and he wants to. He kind of wants to ease out of this because he realizes that this is no win.
Well, yeah, each movie ends with Michael in some sort of solitude or darkness. The first one, he shuts the door, keeps his wife out. Second one, he's just ordered the death of his brother. And then in the last one, there he is by him. And then, you have the scene with the family and the party, and there he is by himself in the room. And then in the last one, there, he's sitting in the chair alone and dies. He never leaves the darkness. He never.
Eric makes a really good point. He's like, did anybody want this? Christy, I mean, we could debate whether or not somebody wanted this film, but what we got is there enough in Godfather 3? And I want you guys to look at it objectively. Like I said, it's very easy to have knee-jerk reactions to this film, and I was going with a lot of those suppositions from what I had always read about how horrible the film was. Christy, is there enough in here to pull out?
I don't think it's a good film.
Okay.
I'm not saying that a Godfather 3 wouldn't have worked. I view this film the way you do when they keep making Rocky movies or they keep making Rambo movies. And he needed money, and it just seemed like it. I don't know, like it just has that feel to me of like, oh, we're just going to keep milking something until we're done with it. Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 have a very distinct feel. Now I get it, like it's 16, whatever years prior, but this film is just, and it's just not ragging on it for the sake of ragging on it. It is a great cast, like it is, and it should have been better than it was. I mean, you have like really good, like I love Andy Garcia. I did not like him in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like him and Pacino are like at some scenes, just like who's going to yell louder at each other. So it's not like real acting for me in a lot of these scenes. I mean, Eli Wallach, and even I feel like he's misused. So
yeah,
could there have been a good Godfather 3 and a good story to tell? Yeah, but this wasn't it.
Mm-hmm. Nick?
Yeah.
And I think it's because the first two were so great. I think they're storytelling wise and cinematography and acting. The first two are like the top. You know, some people think Godfather 2 is the best. Some people think Godfather 1 is the best. Nobody thinks Godfather 3 is the best, right? I think it's that expectation maybe. And that's why I didn't go see it for the longest time, you know, because it's like I didn't think it was going to live up to the hype. And then you hear all the bad things. So I was like, I don't want to tarnish it. And then for this, I watched both the theatrical cut, which I had on DVD somewhere, and then Coda, which is a slight improvement, but still not the best. Like Christy said, I think the performances were just off. Al Pacino doesn't seem like Michael Corleone to me so many times. He's smiling a lot, and he's here. You know, I don't think you see Michael smile except when he was with like Apollonia in the first two movies, right? And you know, Andy Garcia, great character. I love the character. I love that it's Sonny's son. And I think the first time you see him, you think it's like he's trying to mimic, you know, James Caan or something like that. Like it's like, I don't know. It's just so many missed beats and opportunities. But I think Coda was better. I think his re-edit, which just shows that, you know, he wasn't happy with the final result. And I wish Winona Ryder had been playing the part and all these other factors. It was just a misstep, you know?
All right, but I want to dive into.
Can I just say one thing, Nick? One of the things about Pacino is in 1990, Pacino had started becoming the caricature of himself. Like he wasn't that actor anymore. Like, you know, like what was Sense of a Woman in 92, which is 2 years after, and he's full blown. Pacino is Pacino is no longer the actor we knew. Like we kind of just get a little bit of him here and there, like in Glengarry Glen, but it's still like all of a sudden like Pacino has this Pacino-ism.
I blame Francis Ford Coppola more so than the actors in this. I think he wasn't able to draw it out of them. Like I think his judgment looking through that lens. How do you see some of those choices and not stop and have them do it again? Or, you know, like,
was it Coppola's fault or was it the egos? Because
I think a combination.
Pacino started becoming a major pain in the ass, you know, with these things because he was Pacino at this point. He wasn't like a struggling theater actor who they just, you know, were like, okay, let's get this guy. So, you're probably right. It just, I mean,
Sean, you're a teacher.
Train wreck.
Is there any way to grade this movie on a curve? Meaning, you know, and that's what I tempered my expectations, and there's a lot of things wrong with this film, but I don't think it deserves all the hate that it got. I think there's enough in there between the high caliber actors that are in there. Mm-hmm. You know, there's the Return to Sicily was you know, it still felt it had the look of a Godfather film, even though it was in 1990. The film took place in 79. To me, it still had that. It didn't have a modern feel. I didn't feel like I was watching. Oh, they're making Godfather now, but it's trying to be like 79. I think in 1990, I think they achieved an older look to it.
Oh, there's a consistency for sure. It's a great looking film.
Okay.
You know,
I mean,
it still retains all of the blackness, the darkness, the cinematography is not the issue here, and you know, it's.
I'm trying to build one step at a time.
I think it's more. I mean, it is consistent in that way.
Okay.
And maybe Coppola was more concerned about that than you know, like Nick was saying, like just sort of focusing on the actors and letting them get away with certain things. I agree with your assessment of Garcia, both you and Christy, way over the top. I mean, all of the cliches were there. He's like, you know, pulling out his nuts. He's pulling, you know, all that kind of thing. You know, this is not very angry, very, you know, sort of like, but just the machismo thing was just, to me, it felt fake. It felt phony. It did not it did not come across as, as naturally as it should have.
Okay.
And
you know what it feels like?
Wait, I want to kick it back to Sean because I didn't get a chance to hear where he comes out on this.
I've seen this movie twice.
Okay.
That's it. And that to me tells me something, that I resisted it for a long time because I heard about how bad it was, just like Nick. And then I'm like, all right, I'll watch it. And I watched it the second time. There's very little that I remembered from the first time I watched this film. It's not memorable. It's not. The two things I remember. There's one line I remember, just when I thought I was out, pulling me back in. The helicopter assassination and Eli Wallach dying, eating the cannoli and then dying. Otherwise, I forget, like when we were talking about it and you were mentioning scenes, I'm like, I don't know if I remember that. So it didn't leave an impact. And when you grade on a curve, by the way, people have to fail. So,
well, that's what, well,
if
this by all accounts, this is a failure. So I'm just trying to get everybody just to kind of reassess it on a more even keel.
You know what it feels like? No? It feels like 1 and 2 were theatrical releases and 3 was direct to video.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I don't think so.
Or a legacy sequel, which is really what nowadays they do that all the time. They take these movies that you thought were done, the franchises were done, then all of a sudden 20 years later, 30 years later, you have Tron Legacy and you have all these others. Yeah. That's how this felt like before they became a trend. Let's just bring the cast back together and do another sequel. I
totally agree. Dean, you spoke of redundancy in Godfather 2. Here you have, they're bringing back characters from the first movie. Johnny Fontaine is in it. Why do these people need to be? They're not. They're
Absolutely.
just there for being there. They're not there to serve a purpose. Yeah, exactly.
Make you feel comfortable. Absolutely.
And you have those little examples throughout. When he shows his son the little picture, the drawing he had from
little
the
Easter eggs
from these.
Exactly. So it's not like storytelling. It's not legit. I enjoyed it. I liked the nostalgia. It made it feel like it was like you see some of these sequels and you're like it doesn't fit in the universe. This fit in the universe, like you said. It just wasn't really good.
All right,
I'm with Sean. I've seen it this might be the second time I've seen it, maybe third, and it's not memorable. And I guess if you look at how many times when we did Godfather and then Godfather Part 2, each of us were like, I've seen this movie like 20 times.
Really? I only saw it once.
And you look at Godfather 3 and it's like, I literally had to psych myself up to watch it. I was like, if I have to pay for it, I'm not doing it.
Well, let me put it right.
I was like, if it's not streaming free,
I own, we own
one of my services,
the trilogy, and I have both versions come with the 4K set, and one of the discs is theatrical. I watched Coda today, and no, there isn't a vast improvement. I mean, it's a little bit, especially at the end, but yeah, it just feels like a film that Coppola.
His heart wasn't in it. It doesn't feel like.
Exactly. He wasn't trying hard enough, in my opinion. I don't think he was really up to, at this point, when you're, I guess, in those kind of, there is a, responsibility to finish the story correctly. Now, the only two things that I did like about this story was the fact that they brought in 2 real life events to kind of tie into the fictional family of the Corleones, like the death of the Pope, and then of course the church scandal. But so I thought that was okay. That's different. But other than that, I just like, again, just something that just wasn't necessary for me.
Sure.
There's a necessity. There's something, if you got, I don't think I needed to see him suffer in order for me to get that message that, he is, gone to a really dark place that there's no coming back from. So,
Yeah, we got that in 2, Eric, after he kills his brother.
Absolutely. To me, that was the end. That was
you don't come back from that.
That was the impression. That was what I walked away from.
But that's addressed in the film. And I think it's addressed in a very powerful scene with the priest where he says that the priest is like, give me your confession and repent. And he goes, there's no repenting for me. There's no coming back from this. And I thought that was a very powerful scene where he starts to break down and he realizes and I think that's why some of these scenes were so important, is because when Michael breaks down and he says 2 sentences in a row.
Yeah.
He says, "I killed my mother's son. I killed my father's son." He finally realizes what he didn't get rid of Fredo as an adversary. He finally, as this older person, realizes exactly what he did, and that he has to account for that now. It wasn't just I killed a guy because he was getting in the way of my business. It's like, this was my mother's son and I killed him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that scene almost made the movie worthwhile, because you get to see the priest take that confession. And it's like, I absolve you. But Michael's like, what if I can't, what if I don't want to be, or what if I can't stop doing this? You know, so I think I didn't want the same Michael from 15 years before. I wanted a different, I didn't want the same guy brooding and acting the same way. I wanted somebody who has gotten older and maybe a little softer in things, maybe a little bit more like his father. Right, who wasn't afraid to smile, and there are those parallels of as he comes into age, the hot-headedness.
I get it.
He realized, like, he has those realizations, like, shit, I did a lot of fucked up things when I was young, like but I was trying. I thought I was doing right. I thought I was protecting people, right, and in those conversations with Kay, I thought I was protecting you by doing this. That's why I did it.
But
as fucked up as it was.
I totally understand your point of view, and it's legit, and it's but that's something that sounds like something that you wanted to see necessarily. There are like, for me, it was like I felt like this movie was holding my hand the whole time, and when that starts to happen, when there's either narrative, the written word, where people are telling you what they're feeling and doing it in such a way, or even if it's just a visual thing, that's when you start to think about the movie, and then that's when you start really kind of tearing it apart. And that's for me, the thing that sucks about the fact that's not so much that it's a horrible film as much as it is, I don't really want to tear it apart. You know what I mean? The effort was made, it's there, it exists, but I don't feel it was just necessary. It's not a movie that I'm going to return to, and after being on the high of seeing the first two again, after such a long time, this movie kind of brought me down from that, a little bit. And I was just kind of like, oh man, Fredo. So I was almost dreading it in a way. I was like, I don't want to, take that away. It was such a great feeling that especially after seeing the second one again, I was just, man,
it's my twisted way.
So thank you very much for that, Dean.
For killing it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dean.
Let's talk about some of the legitimate gripes then. I want to talk about legitimate gripes, and this is the elephant in the room, and I want to talk about it, but then I want to move away from it. It's two parts, Sean. It's Sofia Coppola and it's the incestuous relationship. Now, let me put a couple things before everyone starts sighing and doing all this crazy. Let's just have the conversation about it. But let me say, like, I don't necessarily have a problem with that being in a film, right? I mean, if they're going to go there, they're going to go there. But in this case, like to Eric's point, they just told us. They didn't show us. There was no connection why these two people fell in love after not seeing each other for so long. All of a sudden they just said, she's like, I love you. Like there was no trauma bonding. They didn't, like if Sofia Coppola's character was the Bridget Fonda character instead, like when the guys tried to come and kill him and there was some type of trauma that kind of maybe twisted things around, like, right. Like that's a case of them just saying stuff and not doing anything, right. Sean, right? It's kind of
what we're doing, the fact that her and the incest,
they're tied. Her performance is tied to this too, right?
I'm not up in arms about her performance as much. To me, it was, I wasn't bothered by it as much as other people. I mean, is the incest piece weird? Yeah, but does it happen? It does. And they decided to include it in this. Does it make it more interesting?
No.
It doesn't do anything. Doesn't,
because there was nothing. We didn't, again, there was nothing to get us either invested or repulsed by it. It was just there, right?
And
just kind of,
does she suffer for it? I guess in the end, she gets killed. But was that, as a result?
You ruined the movie, Sean.
Oh. 35 years later. Spoiler. Oh, sorry. It's only been 35 years. It's too soon.
Sean, find someone else to love.
Okay. But,
oh man.
Right. I mean, Christy, but you're very vocal about this, so we'll let you get on the soapbox and kind of.
It's not like Sean said. Incest happens. Sofia Coppola, I think, is a really good director. I didn't like her performance in this at all. I think she was cast because her father was directing it. The thing about the incest and her relationship with Andy Garcia is kind of what Sean just said. It doesn't add anything, really. Like it was kind of an unnecessary thing to have. You could have had a better storyline, I think, and done something better. Like, it just wasn't necessary. It's kind of like Aaron Sorkin when he wrote A Few Good Men. It was like they wanted the studio heads were like they wanted Tom Cruise and Demi Moore's character to have a sex scene and to be in love, and he's like, but it doesn't add anything to the story. And he was always glad that was something, as much as he doesn't like his final product, that he didn't add to it because it doesn't add anything to the story. So if it just doesn't contribute anything for me. Like, I'm not saying that incest doesn't happen and it can't be part of a story. It's just, it just seemed gratuitous. Like, I don't know. I didn't.
Nick?
I think it's the core reason that this movie fails. I think it is, and Sofia Coppola, her, she's okay. She and she moved on to directing, so that's great. The character could be awkward. That's fine. I don't see the chemistry between her character, Mary, and between Vincent. I don't see that at all. And that is what ruins it. Yeah. You can't believe it. I felt it with, like you said, with Bridget Fonda, and then she just disappears. Right. So it's like, why not combine the characters somehow? Right. And the incest thing, Sonny, stoops his cousin at the beginning of Godfather 1, right? It wasn't that character like his like third cousin or something like that. At least it was, I thought, in the novel or something. But so I see that,
this is a family podcast, Nick.
But you say it doesn't move the plot along. It is the pivotal thing that moves the plot along. It's the thing at the end that gets them to, there's so many reasons why it's important, and you don't see Michael with that intensity that he had in the first two movies when he's like, yeah, you're doing my daughter. It's like, I need you to stop. It's dangerous. It's like, what? It's like, show me something else. It's like, give me some.
With that, Nick, is nobody seemed to have an adverse reaction. Everyone, even Kay, they're all kind of, which again, I don't know if this was like you said, is that type of behavior something that's within this universe that they live in? Where
in the old country, like I've heard, people, cousins marrying. Things like, I understand. It fails. It doesn't. It just doesn't look believable to me. And at the end, like you see, he's really tearing up and he's upset. And so you're like, okay, the character is really in love with her. I didn't see that at all in the relationship. It's like,
there's no chemistry.
I believe it's more like Sonny, where he's just like sleeping around and treating them like that's one thing. He doesn't know her. He doesn't really look at her like a sister or a cousin, right? They call each other Kujina and all this other stuff, but they're not. They haven't seen. So I understand that. I just don't feel that chemistry at all.
And maybe when you're sleeping with your cousin, you don't keep calling them cousin.
Yeah, right.
Maybe leave. Maybe start forgetting you're related. First cousins.
I feel it. Before I kick it to Eric, where Pacino says he's your first cousin, and she's like, "That's well, I love him first." Eric, over to you.
Yeah, good comeback.
Yeah, that's
excellent. I mean, if anything, not that it really works, but I feel it might. This is just a theory, but it just might add to the sort of seediness that the family has become. Andy Garcia is he's more or less sort of street thug type, wearing the leather jacket and doesn't he's not obviously up there with the rest of the family. I don't understand Connie's love for the guy. Like she's constantly
I think she had a little thing for him a little.
Yeah,
there was a moment where I thought they might.
Yeah,
I'm like, are they gonna make out? Like I thought that could be
where she's like caressing his face, I think, and kind of like you're.
Connie was weird in this. And when did she become so important?
Connie was powerful. Like
she was so powerful in this, and she's
a little bit
so mousy in the previous ones.
In a way, that's I guess it's a good thing for like the women are stronger in this film. Both her and Diane Keaton really step up, and they become. Diane Keaton is,
but we don't see that. Like it's just all of a sudden Connie all of a sudden is like the head female of the family.
Yeah,
and it almost is like
she becomes like a matriarch in a way.
Yeah, there were no signs to that in the previous two.
No, but
like that's
where you have to kind of go along with it, though, right? I mean, that's kind of like I think they laid it out in the beginning.
Obviously, she wants things to remain the same too, Connie. Yeah. I think she's on that side where she doesn't want the family to go legit. At least that's the way it seems to me. But I just like again, like. He put diverted the power to Mantegna's character, Joey Zazo, and he's just like he's running the but obviously they're into a lot of shit that the Corleones have never been into, like drugs and probably prostitution. I would imagine, the neighborhood is whatever, so I think the whole like vibe of just where this family is at this point. It kind of says something there. I don't know if it works. I don't know if that was the intent, but I kind of get that impression that it maybe that there's something there to that or something.
It just wasn't. This was them telling and not showing. This was them saying, much like Anakin and Padme. In Star Wars, like they would say you're an angel, and they would say words. They would say these loving words, but there was nothing behind them, and they were just words.
Funny you'd bring up another really bad film from great films.
Well, no, that's the whole point, though. Is that lazy screenwriting of just saying the words,
right?
And they had plenty of screen time where they could have, again, if they were going to go there. Invest us either in these people are scummy and it's disgusting, or I understand what's going on. We didn't get either. We just kind of got scenes of them saying, cuz and kiss a little peck, and then they're making gnocchi and then they're making out.
It's also to what Eric said before with when you're telling the audience what they should be seeing and what they should be feeling, like, and they do that in this film. He also hits you on the head with symbolism. Like when Vince is sitting there eating the orange and he's acting like the Godfather, like, it's just, I don't know, like you're watching, you're just like, all right, I get it, Coppola. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, I know where he's going in this. I don't need him to eat a fucking orange to know he's going to become the Godfather.
And how does Vincent know? Like, he wasn't there when this stuff was.
It's just, I don't know. It's just like,
how does he know that that's even a thing, or how Vito used to sit in the?
Well, he knows because Coppola put the orange in his hand.
Well, I'm just saying, it's those kinds of things that are just like,
they would annoy me. Like, I found them annoying.
Yeah,
I mean,
understood that's what the Godfather does, is sit around and eat oranges in a leather chair. And
I mean, he should have put tissues in his jaw, in his mouth, and
I think you mentioned Connie a little bit, and I don't mind. Like I said, I don't mind a big gap in time and me having to piece together some of what happened, because in the beginning of the film, she's the one singing like her mother used to, in front of the party. You could see that she's assumed that role by Michael's side, where she's not the hard party. Again, you can see these people and say, oh, wow, she is different. She is not the same as she was. Time has elapsed. She has kind of gotten herself into the family business and understands. And even, I think, who said it, Sean, she's kind of pulling some of those strings, especially Sean, when Michael has the diabetic attack, she's the one kind of all of a sudden,
right,
giving the orders and say, take this one out and do that.
Yeah, but she's still got that naivete of like, oh, Fredo, he drowned. It's like,
she knew. She knew.
You think she knew?
Give credit. I think she knew, and that's what she was like. You confess your sins. What are you confessing for? And it's like, hey, it's okay. He drowned. We know. You didn't. It's like
that's what it is. Yeah.
I think and
covering for him.
Yeah, I mean, I like her character in this movie, and I believe Michael could reach that point in his character arc. It's just like you said, we didn't see it. So I'm like, how do you make such a dramatic change without knowing what happened? And they don't seem like those characters that started out, in those first two movies.
It's hard to make the leap with them in this. Exactly. It's because there's nothing that is sprinkled in the first two and I like having Connie in this, and I like the character, but there's nothing sprinkled in 1 and 2 that can help me make that leap to her.
Exactly. There's that point when he was in his coma, so they order that hit. And he's like, "That's you had to go through me." And they're like, "No, Neri said it was okay. Connie said it was okay." And he's like, he looks at her. I love that moment when he's like, "Connie, who lets the women make the decision in this family?" Right? Like you see that drastic change from that first movie where the men are sitting around, and it's like, I'd like to see how Connie reached that point. I'd like to see what happened after Fredo died and how that changed everybody. And we don't see that.
Yeah, but Eric, do you think that Connie sensed Michael's weakness when he was, that because she started making these strong, like Sonny-like moves, like old style moves where Michael is moving away from this, and Connie, in as soon as she gets an opportunity, really kind of seizes the moment, and says, do this, take him out.
Yeah, absolutely. She is, like I said, she wants the family to remain what it was, and do you think this movie would have benefited from some sort of a thing in the beginning, like in Godfather 2, where they had sort of a scrawl come up and just inform you to catch you up to speed?
They did the Rocky beginning, where they show you the scene from the last movie.
Yeah. They kind of did a little. Like I appreciated in the very beginning, they showed the old house out in Nevada, how it was all like in disrepair. Like it kind of set you up that everything was just in shambles.
Yeah.
So there could have been Eric, to your point, there could have been a series of just little vignettes of time passing or newspaper headlines of what's going on to catch us up. But I didn't have a problem I didn't have a problem making some of the connections that a long 15 or so, maybe even more years have passed. So these people are going to be different.
Remember, if you recall, she does tell Michael, "I want to take care of you. I want to do," but she's, opportunity just really just came her way. I don't know how she found that strength. But I mean, Michael, maybe because Michael just wants to go so legit that he just doesn't, he's not telling her otherwise. He's not telling her, So
that's the big thing hanging over my head. Like, why? Like,
why what?
I love the confession scene because I feel like that's the moment when he's like, he's admitting to himself how sorry he is for all the things he did. But the movie starts with he's got so much money that he's like, okay, I can just I'm going to buy that legitimacy. And I don't see how did he make that choice? Like, So I guess that's what I needed to see in this character, and we kind of just skipped it because that might have been too difficult to tell. That would have been the really pivotal kind of storytelling. You have such complex storytelling and character development in the first two movies, and now here we're just expected to make these leaps in character changes, and I don't buy it. That's why I didn't get that connection.
Well, it kind of goes.
That's 100%.
Like goes back to what I was saying about should we, see Michael in this light? Does he deserve that? Or as the audience, does he deserve our, does he, deserve any kind of redemption? For me, it's powerful enough to know that he could have been just like his father. He could have done it right. He could have done all of those things in the second film. But he chooses not to. He keeps telling Kay, "I'm going legit. I promise this time." How many years have passed? He keeps, lying to her about this, and it just never happens. And then, so what? Yeah, like Nick was saying, what did happen that he finally You know what I mean? And I think it takes away the gravitas of the first two, you know, especially number 2, where, you know, again, like he just totally in one sweep just dismantles that family and brings more or less burns it to the ground, in my opinion. I don't know. I just how do you know?
They're such strong films.
Are you guys ready for a fan theory? Sean, you ready
for it?
You ready for?
I am ready for a fan.
It's all a dream, and
well, not a dream.
Oh, really?
Not a dream, but you have to go back. Yeah, you know when I'm watching the very last scene. So after the opera scene, after the scene on the steps, you know, Michael's in Sicily, right? And we get a close up on his face, and he's old. He looks he's dressed like his father with the sweater and the hat, you know. And he's sitting there by himself, right? Because he's, you know, going to die. He's going to die alone.
What?
But he had what?
Ruining it again.
I thought he fell asleep. I thought he fell asleep.
I mean, he gets in the DeLorean and is able to go back and save his parents.
Okay.
He's sitting there, and he has flashbacks, right? There's 3 flashbacks. My first thought when I saw that was, is this whole thing was this whole thing now meant to be positioned as a flashback, that this whole Godfather saga is seen through the eyes of a dying Michael Corleone, because at the very end we get 3 flashback scenes of, you know, him in Sicily and Dancing with Kay, and you know, one from each film, and then he dies, you know, and I'm thinking, wow, was this now meant to be a dying man looking back on everything that happened in his life? And I think if you look at it that way, I think the third film takes on a different tone, because he's looking back at everything that happened from the beginning, and he's bringing himself up to the present, up to where he repented. And in the end, he dies, and in the end, he's destined to die alone. I just kind of caught, you know, and that was the first time I saw it, but I thought, wow, was this meant to did this position the whole thing as a flashback?
The whole, like the first 2 movies as well?
Yeah, like
looking back on the whole thing. Then you don't have, you know, the stuff in Italy with you know, Vito Corleone, like, you know, all the, because that wouldn't be his flashback. Yeah, so that doesn't work. So sorry about that. But
good job, Nick.
Wow,
good job, Nick.
But that's I'll tell you, know, that's why they call it coda, though. To Dean's, you know, point. I mean, you know, that theory is the reason why it's called. But it didn't quite end that way, though, in coda, did it, Nick?
And that's why they still called it, you know, death of, you know,
Michael Corleone.
Michael Corleone, but it doesn't end with his death. Like, it just kind of ends with him thinking, which is, and then that they have that superscript where it says, you know, in Italy they say, you know, yes, so live a long life, you know, and Sicilian never forgets. So it's like it's what he says, like he's suffering, you know, and that's what, you know, the cardinal says to him when he absolves him of his sins. He's like, you did so many things wrong and you deserve to suffer, you know, but I'm still going to forgive you your sins and everything. And that's what he does. He lost his daughter. The one thing he wanted to secure his family. And in the end, you know, again, everything is lost. Right. So I think him living long enough to recognize that and to feel that pain, I think that's a great ending. I like that so much better. I do hate that they took out that in Coda. They just show him dancing with his daughter. Rather, I like seeing him dancing with Apollonia, him dancing with Kate. You know, I like that. So I wish they hadn't taken that out. But I do think that ending is much better than in the original.
What if they had put those back in and then him dancing in front of a woman? Would that have made Godfather 3 better?
And then show him say, "You've got a great ass," you know.
There you go.
Switch the heat, you know.
Ends on that. Can we talk about the fact that Al Pacino's 50 years old in this movie and Diane Keaton's 44? Did they make them look older?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Because
they did a little to Diane Keaton. They kind of aged her up and kind of
he would be
Michael.
Michael would be what? He would definitely be in his late 60s.
He's supposed to be 60, I think, in that film.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But because I'm like,
backwards and do the math.
Pacino is actually 50 years old. I'm like,
somewhere around there. Yeah. You know.
we talk about the cannolis.
Diane Keaton. I was happy that she finally got like a lot of scenes, because that was one of my problems with the other two, is she was just kind of like a side thing. But they really, and again, that's what I liked about this, is they got to go into some of that stuff, and she's still carrying that resentment, and I dread you. Like she goes, I dread you. I don't hate you. I dread you. Like you're this thing, this impending thing. So, like I said, this movie is not perfect, but I think there was some meat on the bone that they kind of, you have to look for it? Yeah, I think you have to look for it, because there's a lot of that stuff, the Eli Wallach with the cannoli and the, like all this weird shit that goes on, like there's is it perfect? Should it have been made? I mean, those are all like valid questions. Who is this? Like Eric said, who is this for? Who really needs this film? All that stuff is valid, but the fact is that it's here, that Mario Puzo wrote it and Coppola wrote it. So these are the guys that did all. It wasn't like they got some other guy come in and say, "Oh, this guy's out of touch." This is what they decided to give to everybody, and I think there's enough in there. Andy Garcia's character isn't perfect, but he's the surrogate for Anthony, right? Because Anthony didn't want this life. So they had to have, so if they were going to go down that path and let Anthony go, and that's how, he gets in Kay's good graces again by letting him go, and that kind of wins a little kind of stuff back from Kay, then we need a surrogate, right? So we need the bastardo.
Bastardo. I love that. That was a good moment.
So, Dean, to your point, I think Diane Keaton is probably one of the best performances in this film. Mm. I may not like anything that's happening and the story, but performance-wise, I think her and Talia Shire are probably the two best performances in the entire film. So, which is nice to have the two, lead women, be what. If there's anything worth watching in the film, is probably at the very least their performances. Yeah. And we're going to have to talk about the cannolis.
Hang on. First of all, here's a nitpick with the screenplay is, in the beginning when there, whatever, Michael was being knighted or whatever honorary he was getting from the church, Kay comes and Kay's husband comes, right? Mm-hmm. And then Kay's husband is gone for the rest. Oh, he's had to stay here. Why the fuck did you even bother? Like, why make her get married? Like, he's in for one scene and then he's conveniently away so those two could be together. Why not just have her be miserable and never got remarried because, like, this of the wreckage that he caused, Nick?
I have an answer for that too, because it does make that scene with Kay and Michael more powerful, knowing that she's married.
She moved on.
So It's like he would have been like, hey, let's get which that is the bigger mistake in that scene, because Michael at the end of Godfather 2, she's dead to him.
Yes.
Dead because of what she did. Right. And again, I'd like to see what made him say, okay, it's okay. I'm okay with that. I miss her. I love her. I don't see that.
He let her raise the kids. He said, I gave custody,
Yeah, but he closed the door, though, on her face.
Yeah, that was rough.
I mean, there is no, that's missing to me. And it's like, what are you going to do?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, it's like, you need to at least exposition something, storytelling. You can't just have that scene. That scene loses power no matter how great Diane Keaton was. And she was great in that scene. I don't believe Michael anything in that scene with it. Like, I don't get it. It just doesn't seem like Michael Corleone. He would not say that. Even if he has a change of heart, I don't see the change of heart. I don't believe it. So
I agree.
Nick, you're 1,000% right. Like we have these you're welcome. We have these we have these two films where these characters are pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. And then I get it. There's a time lapse of 16 years or whatever, but all of a sudden these characters are completely different. It's like, but you're right. Like, where did this change in Michael come from? Where did this change in Connie come? Like, I need something. Like, they can't all just be like, well, now they're this way. I get people change. Like, I'm not saying they don't change, but everyone is like flipped over and it's like upside down world.
Is everybody the same as they were 15 years ago? I don't think so.
No,
but it's a story, though. You can't just assume. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I can believe that is where the story will end up. I just don't see how they got there. And that's why I see those scenes, and it's a disconnect for me as a viewer because I haven't seen. Whereas in the first few movies, you see it, and that's part of the journey of the characters. But here, I just don't get it.
I mean, for my money, it's Godfather 1, Godfather 3, and then Godfather 2.
Shut the Are you serious? You can't be serious. I'm going to hang up.
Everybody has different tastes. Come on.
I will shut this laptop.
It's all right.
I will. I hope you're joking.
It's an interesting choice, but it's okay. I get it.
You're joking, right?
Or is it the original theatrical cut? That's like, no, because Coda, maybe I can understand. Maybe, but not
all
really.
right, let's talk about the cannolis because I can't handle you right now.
Something that was, I don't know, right? Godfather 3, Godfather 2.
Well, and where's God? Maybe you need God to talk to you.
Eric is just dumbfounded. He's like, what?
I know.
What is he saying?
I'm smacked.
Eric's reconsidering his friendship with you.
I thought we knew each other.
Words. He's just saying words.
And don't forget, guys, this came out the same year as Goodfellas, too.
Yeah.
Think about that. Meant that to your point, Dean. Like, remember Godfather or Goodfellas? Well, know, yeah. I remember seeing both in the theater.
No. I think no. He was nominated. I think Glengarry was 91 because he was nominated.
Yeah, because then Scent was 92.
He was nominated the same year. He was nominated for Best Actor for Scent of a Woman and Best Supporting Actor for Glengarry, and I wanted him to win for Glengarry Glen Ross. So this was just before that, but. Still, yeah. Like,
but then he made movies like Sea of Love, which I really like that film. I liked his performance in that film. I
like that movie.
Eric, you're gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna ruin it for you, but sometimes when I was watching Godfather 3, I was seeing Big Boy Caprice.
Dick Tracy?
Dick Tracy, yeah, he did Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
And sometimes his lips had that.
Thank you. He's hunched. He's got that hunched over, like
say goodbye to oxygen.
Yeah. You're right.
Mouth, like you're absolutely right. I was wondering because
that just made this film even worse when I thought it couldn't get any worse.
Sean, did you ever see Dick Tracy? Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy?
It's better than Godfather 3, Sean.
It's an entertaining movie.
I've heard not so great things.
Really?
It's fun.
Dean's favorite child actor is in that film.
Charlie Korsmo. It is such a guilty pleasure.
It's so much fun, that movie. Yeah.
Paul Sorvino is in it. James Caan is in it. They have a reunited scene where Pacino and James Caan are in it, and James Caan was the only one that was in the film. He's like, I don't want to get in any makeup. So it's like he barely has any type of makeup because everybody in Dick Tracy is like a character.
Yeah. Wasn't Madonna in that movie?
This movie was Sin City before Sin City. Like it looked like a comic
100%.
book. The colors in it, it's great. It's just really great.
All right. Yeah. I will find it.
Check it out.
And oddly enough, Warren Beatty was up before Coppola was considered to direct Godfather 3.
Interesting.
And maybe they saw Dick Tracy and said, "This is the man we need to take the Corleones into the 90s."
Yeah, okay.
Beatty
wasn't too bad of a director. I'll tell you that.
No, he could have been.
I liked Bugsy.
Could have been an inspired choice for that. But anyway, I there are certain times I'm looking at him, I'm like, I see Big Boy Caprice.
It just flashback to me because there are moments when I saw his face, I'm like, why is he doesn't look like Michael, but he looks like somebody else. And now, bingo, there you go. Wow.
Yeah.
Hell, even Madonna was great in the film.
Madonna was very good in that film.
I think Dick Tracy might be the beginning. I think we can pinpoint Dick Tracy at the beginning of Nick, when he started the yelling performances.
Yeah, because he was under all that makeup, so he was able to kind of
maybe. Came out like 1991, and that was a big broad role for him. And he that's where he was, like that thing.
Piggybacking off of that, I think the moment you said there's a lot of like screaming and shouting, I really liked that Michael didn't really yell at the beginning. Like you could, there was that moment when he just goes, "Shut up!" That's when I was like, okay, there's the Al Pacino we know and love.
No, but Garcia did some unnecessary yelling.
Well, at the beginning, the accent was wrong. He was like, he was just trying to be stunny or something.
Again, I love Andy Garcia, and he has this. He has a very specific walk because he does it in Touchables and everything. When he walks, and his hands are like back behind him, and he
did that in Ocean's 11.
He has a very distinct walk that he doesn't change in any movie. It's just the Andy Garcia walk.
Oddly enough, Andy Garcia and Al Pacino were both the bad guys in Ocean's films, right? Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 13 was Al Pacino. Let's get back.
Andy Garcia's chest hair can only be outdone by Robin Williams. Otherwise,
Sean Connery.
That was like a bearskin rug.
Christ. Did I have to see it?
The guy's got it. All right,
that scene was a good one. That was a good scene.
Let's talk about some favorite performances. Though I think we
Are we going to talk about the cannolis?
Go ahead. Talk about the cannolis. Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about the cannolis.
Connie takes a little bite of the cannoli and then gives him.
She should be dead.
Eli Wallach is like, you're so thin, and he knows that maybe they're poison. So he's like, you try. She takes the smallest bite possible to hopefully not die from the literally like a baby would nibble on like something. Fine. Then you see Eli Wallach during this entire opera eating a box of cannolis one after another. If you've ever had cannolis, no one eats cannolis like that. No one.
Who's got two thumbs and eats cannolis like that?
They're heavy. They're very rich.
Yeah.
It's not even like he has like a glass of milk or water there to help him like get it down.
Okay.
And
hang on, let me stop you there. Hang on.
It wasn't poisoning.
Rosanna, right? Get it down.
Let me stop you there, Sean.
She gave him diabetes. That's what she did, not poison.
Sean, is it okay to eat that many cannolis in one sitting?
A freshly squeezed cannoli with the hard shell. If it's mushy and chewy, no way.
Thank you.
Freshly
squeezed.
Sean,
you eat like 6 of them.
What? I wouldn't eat a
like
box.
Maybe
2, not a box of them. No, I would not eat a box.
A box. It's extreme.
When you go to
so good, though, probably.
When you go to the opera, having a box of cannolis is like having a box of popcorn. You just keep putting your hand in and you keep eating it.
No, it's not even similar.
He's licking his fingers and enjoying it.
He's like a gavone. He's like going at the cannolis. It's
Christy.
He's eating the olive oil and he's like, "Oh, I love oliva." He's like shoving his like.
Do you know how long an opera is? Like 3 hours. You're going to be eating some cannoli. You're going to be eating cannolis. I'm sorry. If the box is there,
give him some macaroni. Like what is it with the cannoli? No,
he probably.
And then she's watching him with the. It's just
creepy. That was weird because she's like looking like across past Michael,
and he's like,
"Was this her? This is our first kill." No, I mean this is like she fucking says, she's now become a real Corleone.
Yeah, she threw enough dishes at her husband. She threw enough dishes at Carlo, but never really put them out.
No.
She's doing target practice on Carlo.
She probably should have given Carlo a box of cannolis. The sugar and saturated fat would have killed him.
Would have been that easy. She just, I like I said, there's a lot to chew on there. But let's talk. Let's close out on some stuff, positive stuff. Sean, was there any performances that you really that you enjoyed watching? I mean, Robert Duvall is sorely missed in this film, by the way.
Oh, yes.
He didn't want to do it. He goes, I know Al Pacino. He said, I know Al Pacino is going to get a certain amount of money and he's the star. Because, but if I can't get half of what he makes, I'm not going to do it. You're not going to pay me a third or less. He goes, I'm not going to ask for his type of money, but so they left him out. So that being said, Don Corleone.
I missed him.
Nothing. Nothing nice.
I mean, nothing really moved me in this film. I'm not like I don't hate it, but I like I said, I could take it or leave it. I won't like if I'm flipping the remote. You're never going to see Godfather 3 just randomly on, and if I do, I'm gonna keep moving.
Wow, can't even give me a good performance.
This
is unheard of.
But like nothing stands. I've only seen the movie twice, and nothing has really stuck with me as far as if we're doing favorite scenes.
Yeah, let's do a favorite scene. Give me something.
Give me all you got. The Bridget Fonda scene when those guys come in.
Yeah,
and that's a good scene. And you see the brutality of him, like of Vincent.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa, those are rough.
Those like a superhero movie.
You know what? You know what scene goes in hand in hand for that with me is the assassin at the opera.
Yeah,
when he made like he was dead, and the other guy was holding him, and he's like, "Oh, you got him!" He takes the knife. I'm like, "What the fuck?"
That's my other one. That's my other one. Because it's like a throwback.
So maybe the best. I think we're all agreed that the best scenes in the movie are the violent scenes, the deaths, the killings, and then there you go.
The Godfather.
Yeah,
Christy, do you have a favorite scene or performance? You can come up with something. You have something.
No, I think that Diane Keaton and Talia Shire have the best performances in the film, so I'm standing by that. Favorite scene, I do like that scene that you just mentioned, Dean. I think it might be the best scene in the movie
when they're making gnocchi together.
No, that's just way too much. But no, when the assassin is at the opera house, that's the closest thing we get to the first Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
There was
and then Bridget Fonda is really good in it. So the women are actually very good in this film, except for, and I don't want to shit on her, Sofia Coppola, but Bridget Fonda, for as little as she's in it, she's very good. But I that scene is probably the only scene that sticks out.
Yeah, there was one character in the film. I don't know if he was there for comic relief, because every time he was on screen, I was laughing. It's that bishop, and he's always smoking.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to say.
Cigarette.
I like that scene, though.
Like every scene, he's like putting a cigarette in his mouth. Even when he's on the phone, there's like just a cigarette like in his teeth, in the space between his teeth. I think it's like.
Could you be any more obvious that this guy's corrupt? And
I'm like, is that
really
funny? Like, like it was one of those characters. I'm like, he's just so weird. Like he's always so nervous and always just like. As soon as he gets on the phone, he lights a cigarette up. He's like smoking.
Yeah. But you want to talk about good scenes. I actually liked that scene when he's in Coda. They start the movie with that scene where they're making the deal and the offer. Yeah. So it's kind of him talking to the Godfather, like, "Can you help me out?" But he's going legit. So you see already it's a shady, corrupt. There's something going on here. It's not really going to be legit. But I think that's a better way to start the movie. It ties it into the first couple of scenes. But in terms of performances, I did like the guy who becomes the Pope. Then, the confession scene is a great scene. When he becomes Pope, you believe this is a legit character. There's not going to be betrayals or anything like that. And then they whack him off, right? They give him the poison tea. Oh, yeah. And so those scenes were good.
Eric?
No cannoli.
Yeah.
You get a cannoli.
I liked, as little as he was in it, John Savage. It's always, I always liked him.
Yeah.
In this film, but I Duvall was sorely missed. I like the scene in the beginning between Vincent and Joe Mantegna, like when they're and Vincent and they're talking shit about one another, and like they're just like and Pacino's like what do you want from me? Like make and then when he bites his ear and all that. I thought that was, that's fun. That's just like, okay, these are street thugs, duking it out here. This is not the Corleone way. Like, this is certainly not what they're used to, but it's just, I thought that was interesting.
Eric, who did it first? Vincent Mancini or Mike Tyson?
Mancini.
I think it was Mancini, yeah.
So Mike Tyson got it from him.
Yeah. No. And you know what? I think there might be a little, now that I'm thinking about it, it might have been a little flashback there too, because, Joe Mantegna is a really great actor. He wasn't the sharpest in this. He was good, but he wasn't like incredible as Joey Zaza. But there was his whole assassination scene, right? When during like the little Italy, whatever it is, the feast, and he's walking around, very much paralleled the scene in The Godfather with young Vito. When the guy, Godfather 2, when young Vito's going to kill the guy, he's walking down the street, he's untouchable, no one can bother him, and this whole thing unfolds where they end up assassinating him. So you know what? I made the same complaint about Godfather and Godfather 2, where there's some of those overlap things that recall.
There's a lot of that in this movie.
But again, I if maybe Godfather 3 was meant to be some comfort food, right? It was meant to be, like Eric hates sometimes fan service, right? Sometimes fan service is good. Sometimes fan service can be annoying. And I think this was a little bit of that. It was, there's a comfortable area where these characters are. There's a comfortable look. There's a comfortable way of shooting this film. So it feels like Godfather, and it may not be the same thing, and it's later and people have changed. But when I watched it, I'm like, yeah, this to me, it fits in. It's not it happens much later on, but I was fully invested that this was in the universe. I didn't feel like I was taken out. There were plenty of leaps to be taken, but I was okay with understanding that he, from the beginning, his father Vito wanted Michael to be a legitimate businessman. So the fact that we saw the massacre and the pain he inflicted in Godfather 2 at the end, that was the means to the end to get to where he was, and he realized that it's the same shit no matter how high you go. The moral was almost like what's the point? Like, what is it worth? Because he found out that ruining his family, savaging his life for this higher ideal turned out to be not worth it because it was the same shit, And I think, and that's part of, I think, the Greek tragedy of it is we saw this guy who sold his soul at the end of the second film, achieves what he thinks he wants, and makes the moves to get it and absolve, basically buys absolution right through the church, and finds out it's just it was all for naught. So all the pain he inflicted, and I think that's when that confession scene really I think that's when it hits him. He's like, I killed my father, I killed my mother's son, I killed my father's son. Like he's now seeing it in a different light, not like I said in the beginning, not eliminating someone who wronged him, but that he inflicted this on his own family. So
but it took him that long to realize that.
Yeah, maybe. He would never, that whole confession scene, right? The priest has,
I like that scene.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I got too much to confess. We don't have all day, and the priest is like, it's fine. You just start somewhere. And the only thing that was really dumb about that scene is where Michael starts to have the diabetic attack. He's like, I need orange juice and candy bars. And 2 seconds later,
mumbling,
I pray with orange juice and candy bars. Like they had it in the weight that they say. I may need orange juice and candy bars because I'm diabetic. Because literally 2 seconds later was a thing of orange juice and
kind of odd that they had candy bars on hand.
It was like ready. I'm like, okay.
I really think they overdid it with the Fredo's death was a large part of that movie. Like,
so much. Of what, 3?
Yeah, like. Yeah. They hit like we know you killed him, and like it's I
think it's the shadow that can't. I think it can't.
I think that's what's supposed to make him have turned. But I still, again, they're telling you, they're not showing it.
Exactly. It's just
But you talked about fan service, and there's moments where like calling back on the past work. Like I love the line when Lucchese kind of says to him, "Don't take it personal. It's business." Right. That was perfect use of something before. And you could see that, and other times it's like, it's just over the head, too much.
All right. I think I held my own against the four of you.
I don't know about that, but you tried.
No. You tried. I think I held my own.
No, I mean, for the last podcast we'll ever do with you, yeah.
Well, Charlie,
when you placed it number 2 after, like you ranked it above the second Godfather.
Yeah. You know why? Yeah. You know why? Length is everything. I think the shorter the film, the more attention you're going to have.
Coda is tighter.
So I think Godfather 3 moves into second place just because of its running time.
That doesn't Dean just wants to be a contrarian.
Even if you fix the film, that shouldn't count. That wasn't the initial product out of the gate.
Dean just wants hate mail. Or hate DMs or however.
I don't hate
listeners. I'm trying to up the listenership.
I don't hate it. I just don't need
like
it.
it.
Well, I mean, am I going to watch it again? I guess, you know what? Let me put it to you this way. As someone who's only seen each one of them once, if I was going to watch them again, I would watch the third one also. Just to complete the whole thing. Like I don't have that feeling of betrayal that this is something different. I took it for what it was. I knew it wasn't going to be on the level of the third one, so that tempered. I wasn't expecting Gone with the Wind. I kind of, for years we've heard about how horrible Sofia Coppola was and this and that and the other thing. So I was kind of like, all right. And maybe that helped. I watched it, I'm like, it's got plenty of problems and it's not like Sean said, it's not the worst film I've ever seen. It's certainly not the best, but I liked the fan service of revisiting the characters and even Coppola said, he goes, this is kind of like an epilogue. It's just kind of like we're, I said everything I needed to say. We're going to give you a little extra bonus.
But my vineyard needs money.
It's like a bonus. It's like a bonus episode. Think of it that way. It's like a bonus episode of here's kind of.
I need to make more wine.
Let's see if he does some prequel or something. Fill in the gaps between 2 and 3 with CGI.
Why would you put it out there?
Because he needs money after Megalopolis. So I'm just saying it could happen.
They can get Timothy Chalamet.
Megalopolis.
They can get Timothy Chalamet as young Michael, fighting in World War II, sniping Nazis.
There you go.
They could put an all-out action film of Michael Corleone in World War II. Make it like a
he's actually he was very good in A Complete Unknown. I don't know if you saw it, but he is a good actor. Yeah, I don't think he could make another Godfather movie better, but he's a good young actor.
I think he was good as Wonka. I like them in Wonka.
I just think they make it World War II centric, like Saving Private Ryan, and Michael Corleone is like in a band of commandos.
Do we need that? I don't think so.
No, but
Nick, say my name.
There's a lot of things we don't need. There's a lot of things we don't need, but there's a lot of things we want.
Hey, they set up, Vincent as the next Godfather or Connie as the godmother if she doesn't die from what she licked, So
that sounds like a comedy from Disney.
From what she licked.
They're going to call her Donnie, not
Sonia.
Donnie.
Fran Drescher is the godmother.
Donna Corleone.
Sometimes you just leave well enough alone, right?
I think they're done with it. I think if they revisited it now, it would have to be gritty. It would be it would be a multi-part series on Max.
Sylvester Stallone would have to be in it.
He would do it. He would do it.
He would be Rambo and Rocky simultaneously.
So I think that's going to do it for this. Everybody can make their own decision. I think it's worthwhile to at least watch it.
Yeah.
And
it's fine.
Like I said, after we had just done the Godfather 2 episode, I really, for some reason, wanted to see the third one. I'm like, I just want to see what...
And felt the need to torture the rest of us.
Yeah, felt the need to bring everybody into their misery. I wasn't miserable. I watched it. I'm like, okay, will I forget? Will I forget about it in a week? Maybe. But I don't think it deserves all the hate that it gets, because I think there's enough.
That might be warm. That might be value. Yeah.
People are starting to warm up to it. I think there is a sort of change in
hate. It doesn't need to be hated at all.
But there's just like weird choices, like the Klansman holding up. I don't know.
Seriously,
like,
come on.
And twice. One time it's okay.
Once in white, once in
red. In the opera.
Yeah, there are a lot of questionable. There are plenty of films that are questionable.
Dean, The Offer, if you ever get a chance, The Offer was fun. It's not 100% accurate, but it's...
The Offer was... I enjoyed The Offer very much.
Yeah.
The Offer was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
That's worth checking out. Yep.
Yeah.
As an adjunct piece.
Yes.
All right, I think that's going to do it. We don't want to, we spend enough time, I think, tossing it around. So you can let us know on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, what you thought of Godfather Part III. There was supposed to be a fourth. They kicked around with Leonardo DiCaprio, and they had kind of circled a fourth. I think they had even written the screenplay. Had gotten as far as that with DiCaprio and some other people. But like I said, I think they learned their lesson. How many times do you need to touch a hot stove?
As much times as people pay.
I hate to keep bringing up Rambo.
Yeah.
It will happen. It will happen.
Yeah, anything after
there'll be
this,
something.
Yeah, there's the theory of diminishing returns and cheapen the product. You don't want this to become that. You don't want this to become a parody of itself, where you just start making more films for the sake of it, right? I think they stopped here, and it's like, okay, we're good, right? Eric, would you agree to that? It's like, okay, it's like 3. I can handle 3.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I
give you the last word.
I think so. I don't think Coppola was 100% happy with it. Neither was Pacino and Diane Keaton, for that matter. They both approved his recut, the coda. they got his approval with that, but it doesn't significantly change the movie for me that much. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it's definitely worth a watch if you're that intrigued by it. But the final result for me just didn't do it. So yeah. There it is.
All right, that's going to do it. All right, well, I think we'll leave it there. Nick Leshy, thank you so much for closing out the second trilogy that we've done. We've done Star Wars trilogy together. Now we've done the Godfather trilogy together.
Can't wait for the next trilogy.
What's it going to be?
What's it going to be?
Back to the Future.
Three Ninjas.
I would do it. I
do the original Indiana Jones. Go back to that.
Yeah, I would do that.
Yeah, but that's not a trilogy anymore. It's
I don't care.
The first three, I would count.
The first three.
Eric's like, I don't care.
I don't care. The first three, Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. That we need to talk
I don't care.
That. Yeah, we did the Star Wars trilogy, and there were prequels and sequels.
Right. That's true. You're right.
There were three trilogies.
Point taken. Yeah. Christy Cuomo, thank you so much for joining us as well and helping us through.
Thank you for forcing me to be here.
This endeavor that started 2 years ago, and well, that's why we closed it out.
It's always fun to see you, Christy. Though I mean, come on, and you get
to hang out with us.
Your insight is always a pleasure. So
thank you, Eric. It's always nice seeing you and Nick and Sean.
The thing about Christy is she will die on whatever hill she is on. If she,
yeah,
I can't change. I don't think I've ever been able to change her mind on any of these episodes about something where she reassesses, like, oh, you know what, yeah, maybe. It's just no. One cannoli is enough for anybody. It's like one cannoli. Never
it is
never enough. Sean Grady, thank you so much for closing out this trilogy with us. And again, thank you for closing out the Star Wars trilogy. And unfortunately, you don't have any Godfather figures here or prop guns.
I do not.
Or fake cannoli or nothing.
The tux.
No.
Not even the
just a cheesy name I came up with for
my... You don't have a gun wrapped in a towel?
No.
As a silencer, makeshift silencer.
I wish I had cannolis. Cannoli. That's what I wish I had.
I should have made that a thing. We should have been eating cannolis and having the show. That would have been perfect.
And then we all would have died.
And
you'd be alone. Right there. Guys?
We would be eating cannolis, and we should have given Christy a pair of opera glasses, and she could have watched us all eating.
I could have watched you guys all eat your cannolis and die.
All right, that's going to do it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you at home for listening. If you're new to the show, there's a whole bunch of episodes in the back room. Go check them out. Well over 200 and something episodes, so it's always there. New episodes come out every Thursday. For our returners, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it. We hope you enjoy this double shot of episodes that are coming out back-to-back, Godfather 2 and closing out the trilogy with the much maligned but masterpiece anyway, Godfather 3. Yeah, I get the last word in. So for Nick.
Oh, shit.
What? For Nick, for Christy, for Sean, and of course for Eric, this has been Dean asking you to please go ahead and rewind Godfather 3 because you have to watch it again.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.